Please don't. I'm a terrible offering. You really don't want to do this. I taste terrible.
Not today.
What?
To how Mouse ruined comics.
Okay.
All right, 30 seconds. Your 30 seconds are up. No more boomer music.
Stop right there, criminal scum.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Wednesday. It is the Mattriarchy, and we are here for, I don't know if you want to call it a grand finale, but this is the last regularly scheduled show until June. So enjoy it, people. Here's what we're doing. Twitless talked us into applying for an academic conference. And so I, as you guys all know out there, internet land, you guys know how organized and well put together I am. So I'm taking a month off of the show to go ahead and work on my conference paper so it sounds fancy. So that's my plan. So tonight, I've got Marma Josh, who is going through a transition, apparently. How are you doing today, man?
I can neither confirm or deny the existence of anyone called Number One Marmaduke fan. I'm sure he's a great guy, whoever he is.
And we've got Twitless.
What's up?
How's it going? And Matt C has muted himself. What? That's okay.
I'm here. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Looking forward to this. The monthly deep dive into a Christian comic artist who has a extensive repertoire. How do you say oeuvre? I've always wanted to say oeuvre, but
I thought it was
I speak English, so I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I would say catalog, but
catalog even better.
Yeah, an English American.
Yeah.
I do speak the American. So, but yeah. So Taylor says we're gonna need a new character sketch. Oh, hey, that's true.
Yeah, because we have the one where you look like Scooby Doo.
That's right.
Or actually, it's Marmaduke. I know what.
No, it is Scooby Doo.
Oh, okay.
That's quite a joke. It's a different cartoon Great Dane.
Yeah. Or Astro, or they're all Great Danes for some reason. I don't know why.
Maybe Hanna or Barbera had Great Danes. I don't really know. So, Dave, welcome to the chat. Taylor, welcome to the chat. Taylor was sending me weird memes that were cracking me up today. And hey, to Corey Anderson, I don't know who you are. First time I've seen you here. Thanks for coming.
It looks like the chat. Dave was saying that the chat isn't working across YouTube, but I guess it's working now. So
yeah, it must have started working.
Dave, for that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, somebody, who was saying that Carboard was their first exposure to Doug TenNapel?
That was me, and I didn't even play Earthworm Jim as a kid. I just got it at the library. I saw that it was dedicated to someone called the Chestertonians. I said, okay. And then I sensed the Christian angle in it, and I just fell in love with his loose cartoon work. So Carboard will always have a special place in my heart for that reason.
For me, Carboard is probably the third TenNapel graphic novel that I read, and I became aware of TenNapel as a comic booker through some webcomic stuff, but mostly Bad Island was the one that I actually connected with. That was it allowed me to connect his whole catalog of work together, comics and movies and video games and TV series. I hadn't realized that all of those things were from one guy before I read Bad Island, and it was I can't remember, it was Bad Island, something else, and then Carboard, and I was blown away. Carboard is still my favorite TenNapel graphic novel.
Oh wow!
Yeah. I really like.
I was gonna say hot take time. It is actually my least favorite that I have read so far.
Yes.
What?
We need some tension.
Yeah.
Okay.
Drama.
Okay. Holy
That-
cow! I don't know.
I'm not
Well,
saying
that-
I'm not. Yeah. I'm just.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll have to get into that. I am stunned to have that. Where did you come down with it, Matt?
So part of this. So well, just walking it back just a second. My first book that I read was Bigfoot Bill of his. So I never had like this like pre 2018 knowledge of what his work is. So like going through his books now with this show, like all of them are my first exposures, and the first two that we did were very similar, Ghostopolis and Earthboy Jacobus. So like I was really digging Cardboard because it wasn't like the last two books that we read. So actually it's kind of like it's more like Bigfoot Bill with the innocent
It's big.
you know,
It's big fist Bill.
yeah, like the
Literally.
yeah
His name's Bill, isn't he?
Yeah, it's Bill the
it's
Boxer.
also Bill.
Yeah. It's Big Fist Bill.
But I think I liked it a lot, but I'm willing to have my mind changed for the purposes of drama. So we'll see where tonight goes.
Marm was so shocked that he had to drop after hearing our hot take. Also,
Yeah.
shout out to Well Read in the chat. He says, "Where my fat people at, yo?"
Hey, welcome, man.
Yeah.
I'm fat from here down, so we can.
There we go. All right. Good to see you. And Evie says Boxer Bill. Yeah.
Boxer Bill. I love Boxer Bill. Oh,
Keeping up with the trend of a monosyllabic name with a cool adjective before it.
yes. Yeah.
No elongation powers this time. Boxer Bill doesn't have any like vines or Spider-Man webs.
That's true.
Yeah, that was noticeably absent, which was kind of interesting and I guess
Although-
refreshing. And no title that he could instantly, as we learned on a previous book, it's not a title that he could just make a website
Copyright,
for.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
couldn't buy the website for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one other thing to note on that too, though, is there is an action backpack though, so that's it takes place a very minor part of the story, but it does exist. So,
Yeah, I wish we had gotten more than 2 pages of that, but that was really cool backpack.
Yeah. Well, I think it was actually 3 because the fall takes a couple of pages to get all the way through that.
Yeah. Mm.
So,
All right.
we'll have to get into
So-
that.
So like are we doing plot synopsis time at this point?
I think we have to. Right?
Yeah.
And I gotta. Okay, let me ask this. This is since Twitless came out the gate like,
With the hot
man,
takes.
I can't believe I hated this book so much.
I didn't say I hated it. I said it was my least favorite.
Who's
Trying to-
explained?
You're trying to twist my words there.
Okay. But
It is kind of different because I had a fresh perspective the first time I read it, and now I'm reading it as a Doug TenNapel book, and I see the Doug TenNapel-y themes in this that I've noticed in his other works now. I mean,
I am just super
worked-
happy that you now call him Doug TenNapel and not Doug TenApple.
Someone commented on my channel that it is TenNapel, right?
Yes.
And then I thought,
Yes.
oh, yeah. It took
Don't change, change, George.
no, it's
Never
time for a
change. You've been saying
It was time for a
TenApples
change
for
in my
years.
life. I have a new
So
profile pic. I'm going to say the name different.
And bunnies are very 2019. But the thing with TenNapel, like I always thought that it was TenApple as well, until my wife went through and extracted the soundtrack to Skull Monkeys off of the PlayStation disc. Because we wanted the soundtrack and couldn't the Terry Scott Taylor soundtrack is like $70 for the CD set. I don't have that kind of money for CDs. So we extracted it off the PlayStation disc. And in the Worm Graveyard, which is one of the levels, there's a voice that says Doug TenNapel is one of the audio sounds in the track. And so yeah, that's how I learned how to say his name. Because it was in
Pennsylvania says in the chat Doug TenNipple.
No, we don't need to talk about that. Don't need it. Nope.
That's valid.
Sorry, Marma Josh. I cut you off. You were saying
No, it's all right.
Oh, now it's awkward.
I
I finished.
just
I
needed,
finished. It's time for a change. It's not awkward until you try so hard to make it not awkward.
I see.
I just needed to.
I just couldn't remember where we left off with that because, like, he interrupted you, and then I interrupted him with the whole story.
Yeah, I know.
Like, oh man, Josh was saying something, and I don't remember what that was.
Welcome to the Matriarchy, ladies and gentlemen.
So getting back to the synopsis of Cardboard.
Yes.
While we're interrupting.
I remember what it was I was starting with before that, right? I was going to say, because of the hot takes, I was going to say, Twitless, how do you want to take it? Do you want to start with the plot synopsis, or do you want to talk about why?
General impressions.
General impressions. Yeah. Where do you want to take it? I'll let you.
I think it'd be cool to do general impressions, like just even like a short snippet, and then jump into synopsis. So we have just to keep it brief, because I have thought about this a little bit, and I would say my hot take, but also quick little takeaway, is that I think this is in some ways Doug TenNapel's best idea. It is it's one of his most creative ideas, because of the idea of it being a kind of like magical cardboard that you can kind of create into kind of anything that your imagination will allow. The pure creativity of that. One of a fantastic storytelling idea, a fantastic idea for a story that centers around young boys. So, like I said, definitely chalk up to Doug TenNapel's like one of his best creative ideas. However, I would say that in terms of actually how the story hits, I felt like a lot of beats kind of were misses for me. They just didn't hit right, and so it was definitely not greater than the sum of its parts. If you get what I'm saying. I
understand what you're saying, but I can't imagine how you come to that conclusion.
That's fair. But I would say that I feel like the things that he does in this book, the elements of the story, because they are common themes that I have seen before, I think he does them better in other works. Specifically, I would say that the redemption of a bully and redemption and forgiveness of a bully arc is better in Tommysaurus Rex. Part of that may be personal bias because I love T-Rexes, but I also think that there's just things that just do not resonate as well as in some of his other books. And so, like I said, there were moments that I just didn't feel like the pieces were there, but they just weren't landing for me. So that's my brief takeaway.
I feel like Cam is a little underdeveloped. He's the good boy, in contrast to Marcus the bad boy. And his father goes on an arc. Marcus goes on an arc. Like Bill kind of goes on an arc. It kind of feels like Marcus and Dad take some time away from Cam and Bill. So maybe it's like, it kind of feels like there's maybe two movies going on at once, the dad story and the cardboard story. My general impression is it's very creative. Doug consciously hits a lot of beats, right? So he kind of like makes a point that this is about a father-son duo and the imaginative power of a cardboard box itself. And then because it's magic cardboard, then it goes from being imaginary to being like a real crazy adventure. The stakes build up nice. Now that I'm looking back on it, reading more Doug TenNapel stuff, things that I thought were really fresh and interesting and different when I read it the first time, like Boxer Bill. Boxer Bill just felt super cool. Now I'm looking at it and saying, oh yeah, this is how Doug approaches characters. He creates a wonky looking dude with some kind of superpower and some kind of desperate urge to grow up or to be a Pinocchio real boy. And I think I'd actually agree that it's not as polished as some of his other works. But the idea of magic cardboard coming alive is perfect, right? So I guess it's like what's his name? Philip K. Dick. He wrote all those short stories that people make into movies, but he never got super popular in his own right outside of like his influence on the writing community.
Well, yeah, because he had too much, too many barbiturates to take.
Yeah.
He didn't have time to get popular. He was too busy taking all of the drugs.
It's funny. It's Marma Josh, what you said about Cam, because I kind of think the innocent son trope in his books. I feel like they're consistently. They always kind of take a backstage. It seems like, and that's the impression I got from Earthboy Jacobus until the third act when he becomes an adult. Funnily enough, like that's when he lets him develop when he's struggling with manhood. But when he's a boy, that trope typically he lets the father figure, I think, take more of a center stage. It's just kind of funny. Like he's got a type with he's got these tropes, and then he's got where he likes to put them on the stage. And typically
he
the
wants
father
the father,
figure seems to go.
Yeah.
I think it'll be
Because
interesting.
in the Hollywood logic is you let the boy be the main character, and the father's lucky if he even gets screen time, right? So maybe that's a conscious. I think fathers are an important thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure that was always that way with stories. But the other thing is in Hollywood anyway. The other thing is I think that it'll be I think you guys have really interesting to take a look at Flink, in which the father is barely in the book at all, and it's all about the kid and the Yeti.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so he'll switch it up.
It's my side of the mountain with a Yeti. So
that's nice.
Oh yeah, it's actually really, really fun. Oh, I if you're out there, Tim, I did do the thing. Anyway,
No.
Oh, he's gonna hate you for that.
Yeah, I could just see my DMs glowing. Probably.
How is everyone secretly connected to Tim Lim? I don't understand.
I'm not secretly connected to him. I've had him on the show a bunch of times, and we talk direct messages sometimes.
Maybe I'm envious.
Publicly connected.
Yeah, he's a fun guy.
Fluck, by the way, is in the chat. Good to see you. And Evie, yes, definitely get Tommysaurus Rex.
I would say though, I don't. I can kind of see the explanation about Cam not being developed a lot, in it, in terms that he's more of a cause for change rather than a character who changes. There is a very small arc for him. I wouldn't say that for Bill though. Bill goes from somebody who doesn't question his existence to wanting to aspire to be something.
His Pinocchio characters are very important. Typically, if they are present in the story, they tend to gobble up a lot of panel time, I guess.
Well, let's give a little bit of a synopsis.
Okay, let's go through it.
Yeah, Reese, since this is I think your favorite, I think you should take the wheel here.
So the story is that I'm going to forget the dad's name, so I'm just call him Dad. That Dad's a construction worker in California at the beginning of the recession, and dude can't find work anywhere, and all he knows how to do is build. He doesn't have any confidence of anything else in the world except for building things. He can't get a job anywhere. He's somewhat recently widowed, and he's trying to raise his boy the best he can, but he's just entirely outside of his comfort zone, doesn't know how to be a dad, doesn't know how to do anything, and can't find two nickels to rub together. So on his way back from trying to ground up some work from some local contractors who just quit building, he runs across Gideon, a shop vendor, a side of the road, out of the back of a van in a tent selling things guy, who tries to sell him a bunch of toys. He's like, I don't have any money to buy toys, so he sells him a cardboard box, and he gives him. Now listen, there are 2 rules for this cardboard box. 1, don't ask for more cardboard, and 2. Sorry, I'm laughing about the second meeting with Gideon. And 2, whatever scraps of cardboard you have left over, you have to bring back to me. And he's like, okay, that's great. So he brings the box home, and I'm going to stop. I just got a lovely lady to bring me coffee. She's the best. Okay. She'd be so embarrassed if she knew I said that on in front of the world.
Aww.
So anyway, you don't have Mitch's hangups about being unable to express his feelings of affection towards a woman, right?
No, I gush.
Wait, is the dad named Mitch, or did I just make that up? Let's keep calling him Dad. I like that idea.
Let's call him Dad. No. Anyway, so, well, yeah, it's a way. So, so the guy sells them this box for 78 cents. It's a father and son project, like, so they brings it home to make stuff out of cardboard, and they make this boxer out of cardboard. It's a big statue, And then in the morning, the thing's walking around and talking, and it's come to life. So the next set of the story is just them learning to live with, and the dad's oddly like okay with this walking, talking cardboard man. Who is somehow just now a part of their life. And dude mows the lawn for them, and the neighbors stop over, and they're like not overly weirded out by the walking, talking cardboard man.
You need to have a healthy sense of suspension of disbelief for this one. If you're
this one.
if you're a stickler for certain things, this story will bother you.
Yeah.
Well, he has a whole page.
Type of comic person.
He has a whole page where he explains the cardboard box came from space, and that the UFO
gosh, that was so
piloted
weird.
by a
Real
wizard
quick.
who was also really.
Oh gosh, it was so.
Don't spoil it. We got to talk about that. Doug has talked about that. I remember hearing him talk way back in the day about that. I've been waiting for years for this.
Oh, really? Okay,
we'll get there. We'll get there.
We'll get there. Because I mean, like, there's a plot point where it brings it up, and it's like the world's best joke. I can't even. Okay, so anyway, I can't explain how much I love that 2 pages.
Oh gosh. So that landed for you? Well,
I was gonna say,
absolutely.
I think Matt C and I are gonna be in sync a lot today. Surprise!
Those 2 pages are the best, or they're not the 2 best pages in this.
So are we going to talk about them right now?
Yeah, I was gonna say
we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in a bit. That's the second
right.
visit to Gideon. That might be the 3rd visit to Gideon. All
right, synopsis. So they live with the cardboard. Yeah.
They live with the cardboard guy for a while, and in the neighborhood, because they have the smallest house in their neighborhood in the Southern California town. And on the other end of the block, the biggest house in the neighborhood is owned by Marcus and his weird parents.
Dun dun dun.
Right? And you don't meet Marcus's weird parents right now, but Marcus is the rich goth kid who just kind of lives to terrorize everybody, but not like absolutely like be mean. He's kind of like Eddie Haskell. He's the bastard who lives next door that thinks he's better than you, but he's still like wants to like be part of the cool things you're doing. So he's very much like Eddie Haskell. Yeah.
Basically, he is a combination of all of the worst kids you knew growing up. He's like all of them at once.
Well,
which is a little weird actually, because some of them I feel like don't always mix. But he really just take all of the worst bits out of all of your friends and put them into one little person and blend it, and you get Art Spiegelman.
That I think is a fair statement. It's not the worst kids you knew in school. It's the worst like bits of all of your friends.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement, because I mean, maybe it's just me, but like living in a small town, going to schools with really small class sizes, sometimes you had friends with people because they were the only people that were there. Right.
Mm.
And so now that we're all grown up and there is a certain class of my fellow classmates I have no interest on checking up on. Right. You can go and live your life and do whatever, and it's fine. I hope you have success and I never hear about you ever again. Right. And then there are those friends that you have coffee with, you want to check up on, all that kind of stuff. So, but like that, I think it's at the same time you're looking at like the worst parts of all of your friends. I think is fair, because it's not that there's this weird jealousy in Marcus, but it's not a hatred. He's not really trying to hurt people, but sometimes things he thinks are funny are really hurtful. I mean, I think
he's a little worse than that, because he's got because he's right here. He's manipulative, and
jealous.
Yes, he's manipulative, jealous, and
used to having all the because he's
a spoiled brat. Definitely.
Yes, he's used to having the coolest stuff, and then Cam, the poor kid from down the street in the tiny house, has the coolest thing, cardboard, that can become a dude, and he doesn't have it. He can't go buy it.
Can we brief shout out to the to his rat companion?
Yes, that's familiar.
Yeah, I really I don't know. I just found that hilarious.
Well, I think
probably
so now that
because
I've read
it was just a
Ratfest,
silent character that was just driving cars and stuff.
I
think that kind of scenario it usually works, and Doug knows how to do those well. Sorry, Mar.
Now that I've read Rat Fist, Doug likes to use rats as a symbol of in Rat Fist anyway, the rat is directly a metaphor for the sinful condition, right? So if that's in his brain, maybe it's in his brain here.
I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe a little. I don't know. I feel like the rat was a bit of an innocent victim because, like, you have the shot. Speaking of the rat, there's this great shot here where the rat's just like, I don't know.
Right. Well, and I think part of it too is the rat's definitely seems a little bit like a familiar, right? Like there's something weirdly gothic about Marcus's character. Marcus is trying to attain characteristics of Cam by force of his will, not by being what Cam is, which is, compassionate to other people and considerate and all that other kind of stuff. I think there's something that, and this might be reaching a little bit. I do think
Marm is onto something a little bit though, because when the evil monster shows up, which we'll get to later, the whole idea of like rat on your shoulder,
the whole other level.
Goes to that another level. So there may be something about the the sinful nature that's kind of whispering in your ear. So at least maybe on an image level, I can see. I think that playing out.
Initially, the direction I thought the rat was going was that this is a symbol that Marcus is redeemable because he actually cares about a living thing, even if it's this rat. But then nothing.
Well, and he cares about several living things. He actually goes on about that. Yeah, his crabs and he's there's actually a whole scene about
he
that.
Kind of does, because that's played as a joke, because he says I care about it, and then he like throws one over his shoulder. Like that's one of the things I struggled with, is like the book would tell you something and then it would immediately like go against what it had just said.
Right. But this is one of those things where you have to come back to how reliable a narrator is Marcus.
I get it. No, I know he's unreliable. I'm just saying what that tells the reader though is something different. That he's
an unreliable narrator?
No, it goes deeper than that. It tells you that he's not just unreliable. It tells you that he's kind of evil. Like if he comes out and says I love things, and then he goes and he like, when you throw a hermit crab over your shoulder, that could possibly kill it. Like that's like either sociopathy, which is like maybe excusable, but Doug plays that off that kind of in a humorous way of like the kind of,
or it's a cartoon.
Oh gosh.
No. Like, no, this is a good point. Like Marcus is actually, he's so, there's so many facets and dimensions to him.
Yeah.
That it can be frustrating in a way, because you get a sense that that Doug has a very clear picture of who Marcus is, and you're continually wrestling with the expectations of the sort of the tropes and the age demographic this is written to, or like you're trying to see like what kind of box can I expect Marcus to eventually fall into. And he keeps, instead of letting him fall into that expectation, he keeps just adding more dimensions, right through to the very end.
One thing I wanted to point out is actually, Taylor, it was my sister who had the hermit crabs. But the thing I wanted to point out is the fact that the idea that you can explain or at least mollify a bully's behavior by them saying, "Oh, I have a psychological condition." Doug is aware of that trope, and he's actually he's satirizing it.
I think so.
But
I think that's fair.
Definitely is, because that's definitely his. It's definitely informed by his conservative worldview of the fact that bullies use the my mom says I have a condition, which explains why I am like a sociopath, as opposed to my dad didn't whoop me enough and teach me the lessons of life so I could be like a good person.
And we got to come back to later on, after we talk this story a little more, we got to talk more about Marcus's parents, because they are like in my first reading of it, when I read it like probably 6 years ago, not 6, it would have been 5 years ago. Anyway, they are much more complex than I had thought. In reading it through this time, there are weird levels of what is said and isn't said. Back to our discussion about mouths.
Right. I actually do have I'm totally going to piss off Matt, because I do have a mouse comparison that totally going to happen tonight.
Kill the stream.
Yeah. But to wrap it up is that the story ends up Marcus ends up getting some of the through underhanded means. He gets his hands on magic cardboard, does not use his powers for good, and that's
I don't want to get to even that yet, right? Because you got to see so Marcus gets super jealous of the cardboard, and so his first reaction,
boxer, right,
is of the boxer, of Boxer Bill. So his first reaction is, and he's got a little lackey called Pink Eye or whatever. And so he and Pink Eye secret some water pistols and attack Bill with it. And Bill starts to melt down immediately from the waist down, and he just falls apart, and they race him home. They race him home, and Bill home, and he's bleeding out somehow, right? And so Dad runs to Gideon, the shopkeeper, and says, "We need more cardboard. Bill's about to die." And they're like, "Well, you're breaking the rules. I can't help you at all. You're breaking the rules." And so Bill's like, "I don't care about rules. I care about, whatever." So he goes home and he finds the scraps and he builds a cardboard maker out of scraps, which is a triangle with a button that says maker on it.
He pulls the genie and he wishes for infinite wishes, essentially.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
No,
I love that. I love that device.
No, it's great. It's great. It's just, yeah.
The good guys do something similar to what the bad guys do. The good guys decide it's not fair that Boxer Bill dies. Therefore, we're going to break the rules of magic cardboard. Marcus decides it's not fair that Cam has magic cardboard and I don't. Therefore, I will steal. So literally, their choice to break the rules is what sets up the bad guy stealing the thing that broke the rules to set chaos in motion.
Right, and when Marcus gets a hold of it, he takes it to a whole other level, and that's the whole thing. Don't want to get to that yet. So, but yeah, so they're able to get more cardboard and patch Bill together, and he's fine. And then once Bill's put back together again, Bill has a personal awakening, and this is one of the things I think is great. Bill decides it's not enough for him to be the guy who mows the lawn and punches things. He wants to be a good man. And he starts reading, going through the library that Dad has, and just reading everything. And he's reading The Wrath of Khan, and he's reading Plato, and he's reading Chesterton, and he's reading all sorts of stuff, just filling his head with what it means to have meaning.
Just an aside, is The Wrath of Khan, does anyone know it as a book? That was kind of a weird moment.
There's a lot of those.
I think there's probably there was a
novelizations.
novelization of it. Yeah. I'm sure it's supposed to be there because Doug is a nerd.
Yeah, I kind of feel like he wanted it to be a book, but he also wanted it to be this movie that he likes. That was a little couldn't you just pick
but back in the 80s, and you guys might not know this, back in the 80s, it was super common for every film to come out to have a novelization of that film. So if you didn't want to wait to watch the movie, you could read the novelization of the movie. And they still make youth novelizations and stuff, but I haven't seen a novelization of a big blockbuster in years. But they're used to always have them. So I'm sure that there's a
it's fine. For the joke, for the highbrow, lowbrow contrast.
Yes.
It's kind of hard to think of, okay, what's a novel that will be lowbrow that everyone instantly in pop culture recognizes. It's hard to not do something like a movie novelization or something.
Sure.
I don't know what he would replace that with and still land the joke. So
right,
it works. It's just a little funny. It's like, shouldn't he be watching that? But it's fine.
Related to
they're saved from the chat. Evie says there is indeed a Wrath of Khan novelization. She just checked.
Yeah, it's not known as that, so it's just the weird,
I noticed something when Boxer Bill had his moment of awakening. So one of the things that Boxer Bill realized when he had his moment of awakening is he doesn't want to mow the lawn for Dad anymore because he might get hit with a sprinkler, right? So he's getting smarter. He's not being exploited. Up to this point, the Dad's been basically kind of by accident exploiting Boxer Bill. And it's interesting because the Dad is consistently established.
It's a little on purpose. It's a little on purpose.
Yeah, right. Like the joke is that she offers him the money and he accepts. Right, but the dad refuses to take charity from anybody, but he allows Bigfoot Bill to work for him because he doesn't see Bigfoot Bill as a person. Boxer Bill. He doesn't see Boxer Bill as a person yet.
It's Big Fist Bill.
Yeah, Big Fist Bill. What was just a nice little writing moment is Doug doesn't have the dad come out and say, I don't think this cardboard person is a person at all. He has the dad accept money from Boxer Bill, even though it would violate his rules because he doesn't see Boxer Bill, it doesn't break his rule of never accept charity from anybody. So I just thought it was a neat little moment, and it advances both Bill and Dad's characters a bit.
Yeah, it's an interesting. Okay, so what we talked about with Ghostopolis was that that Kappa factor that Doug had said that he had read about with C.S. Lewis and Narnia, and he said he immediately wrote Ghostopolis as a result of learning about that. But I kind of feel like Cardboard is a better representation of that same concept, where he's thoroughly saturating the story idea, the plot, the themes, the characters. Everything is it's the same blood pumping through the veins of every aspect of this book. You know, with like work in carpentry and craft and the value of your craft and whether or not that should be stolen from you, or you know what. Like this, like I don't know. It can't really be summed up. It's like a constellation of ideas that he's getting at, but it's more consistently applied here than in Ghostopolis. We still don't know what that was about. Like in terms of like what the overall organizing principle was. But Cardboard has it's in the name. It's a very cohesive organizing principle, much more than Ghostopolis, in my opinion.
I am interested. It is interesting you bring that up because I do know. I remember. I'm sure some of you guys are. Now I'm sure you know that the Doug's father was a carpenter. So and he has mentioned this, and so there's definitely a very
swung a hammer all his life. I think is the quote.
Strong connection there.
Which that actually is a line that is in the book Cardboard.
Yeah, that's why I brought. Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, wait, what? Yeah.
Yeah, this father figure is one of the most fatherly. I think in some ways.
Well, I mean, all right. So if we're gonna go is this Doug Tenapple talking about his dad angle? Then what's interesting about the two kids, Marcus and Cam, is they represent two opposite sides of creativity. Cam is wholesome creativity that desires to give life, and Marcus is manipulative creativity that likes destruction. So maybe Doug sees in, I don't know, the power to draw silly comic books. He sees in the power to draw silly comic books the potential for good or evil. And
I think that's a fair understanding of just arts as a whole. I think that's something that.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's I like. Yeah, run with that. Yeah.
So also from the chat, Doug's God is a carpenter too. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Way to go, Evie.
See how that all ties in? Like Ghostopolis was like, wait, there's a World War II fighter pilot that's the god of this. Like, you know what I mean? But you don't have any of those question marks with this. Like, it's all.
I don't find that as a question mark. I
have different question marks in this one.
Okay, we'll get there. Yeah,
we'll get there.
Okay.
So Marcus has stolen the cardboard maker.
Share my screen. I got the exact like.
No, you don't. You're early.
I know.
In a minute.
Okay.
In a minute.
All right.
So he has stolen the cardboard maker, and instead of building a cardboard maker, he decides he's going to build a cardboard monster maker. And so he builds a machine and says monster maker on the side of it or whatever it is, and he starts building monsters based on sketches he's made. And he makes a ream of paper sketches of all these different monsters, and he feeds them into an impersonal machine, and the machine makes the monsters. And one of the monsters it makes is this boxer, the death boxer, right? Because Marcus is twisted and he wants to make things that are dark rather than things that would strive toward life.
And everything Marcus makes, which gets brought up later, is is like it's a darker copy. He's less creative, and that ties into his moral compass issues, I guess. So he's more he mimics what he sees other people do more, and then
which is a definite commentary that Doug is making about the arts industry, and the fact that that it that like Cam makes a wholesome boxer figure, and then Marcus's creativity can only really take that and twist it into Death Boxer, which is the same but way worse without any moral center.
Taylor, I hate how accurate you are. So
I would say it's like Hollywood as a whole in some ways.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
I think there's a bigger commentary about and I would say, especially considering Doug's conservatism, I would say I think he's definitely making a commentary even further about what the left does to.
I think at the very least you're looking at maybe not even in terms of the left in a political sense, but of postmodernism in a philosophical sense.
Yeah.
Where you're leaving aside the good and the beautiful. And you're making art that's just based upon cool factors, then maybe you make art that doesn't have lasting meaning.
Soulless corporatism made in a literal creature factory.
Creature factory sounds like a hell of a fun toy.
It's super cool.
Yeah, isn't that a Doug TenNapel book, or that's Creature Tech?
Creature Tech, which we absolutely have to read one of these days. I'm not sure what we're gonna do in June, but we'll have to figure something out because I want to keep going after the conference. Yeah.
Get through the whole au revoir.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania says, I think it's probably hearkening back to the Tolkienian idea of evil being incapable of creation, only capable of corruption. No, I definitely had that thought as well.
There's probably a definite aspect in that. There's even a Tolkien joke in the book. I don't know if we'll get to it or not, but is Marcus a negative representation of Doug? Random thought, but he's got long hair from the little I've heard. And he might have that part of himself not knowing what he had at home. I think that's possible. That Doug is using aspects of his own childhood, because I know that was a conflict, and young Doug was a punk.
So if Evie's theory is correct, though, then I would say that this whole story is basically Doug in different costumes. Because Doug is definitely Bill.
Yeah.
He's definitely Boxer Bill, even down to the hairstyle. I think there are elements of him that are in Marcus. I think elements of him that are in like Cam. And was it Earthboy Jacobus, where it was like one character is who he thought he was, and one character is who he wanted to be. And
he's talked about that. I think all writers do that to a certain extent. Take from our own experience. I mean, part of what I think makes writers so messed up is that we, fold ourselves into the minds of these imaginary people we create in our heads. So, I think that, I think there could be real psychological damage if going through all of that.
But Doug he does have this particular flavor like that we don't see with Gene Lewin Yang, where he's always kind of wrestling. He's exercising some sort of family demon. There's always like this really interesting. It's always male centered kind of relationship stuff that's broken, and there needs to be some sort of healing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually father to son, and I'm seeing that every time almost.
I would say that's usually the case. If you look at as weird as it is, there is a really interesting mother-daughter dynamic that is foundational to Earthworm Jim Volume 2. That's
neat. Well,
I think
spoiler.
My theory on it is that I think this is Doug's influence as a 90s kind of creator. There's something very 90s about his storytelling. I say this kind of as a compliment. In the 1950s and 40s, the stories you told were often about like whole family dynamics, and it was the kids who had one single parents who were the bad kids. But in the 90s, it all became about stories about single mothers who were also trying to juggle a career, or fathers who were widowers who had a child that they didn't know how to handle. And it's a very kind of 90s storytelling, which, like I said, is way better than what we currently have today, which is, what is a family? And let's take a bunch of random pieces, mash them together, and call it a family, and call anyone who questions that a bigot. And so you just end
modern
yeah.
family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Everyone's great. We're all fine here. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's something very almost 90s-ish about the way Doug sets up his family dynamic plots, which I'm
you don't blame. You don't blame Spielberg. Like, I feel like Spielberg's constantly revisiting his divorced parent childhood, and I don't know. I guess there's a lot of influences there. It did become popular.
The whole latchkey generation had a. I mean, that's a factor in all of that Gen X art kind of stuff. That was both made by Gen Xers and that influenced Gen Xers was a lot of that factor. I mean, the growth of no fault divorce laws from the 60s on reshaped the way we look at family dynamics. And I think there's some factors in that. But yeah, anyway, back to the story. Let's bring it back.
Yeah.
Right back. So Death Boxer goes to attack Bill, and it doesn't go well for him. But it's a fight, man. I tell you what, I gotta tell you, the action in this movie, every inch of it to me feels earned, right? Like, there's, with the exception of a couple of awesome things in the last chapter, there are no easy victories. It feels like real peril on the table the whole time. So
yeah, well, I'm surprised you didn't mention Carboard Dad dies. That was really
that
was amazing.
You mentioned that Carboard Dad. One of the things that ended up happening, as we brought it up, is that Cam, the son, makes a yay tall, a nutcracker sized cardboard model of his dad. I've got 2 Marmajoshes.
Oh no, is it going to cause a feedback loop?
I don't know. I don't think so.
The one on the right doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so I heard about little Cardboard Dad dying, and what's neat about that is it reinforces the cardboard characters can die. It's kind of graphic and sad and tragic.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of subverted. Our expectations are subverted because it's just a little copy of the dad, and the dad's okay. So it's like, well, who cares if the copy's dead? But it's bringing home that maybe they've done something wrong by bringing life to these things, because if they brought life to them,
he meddled in God's domain.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's actually a big factor of the story. So
although like I'm still struggling. It's funny because those emotional, like, Doug's strength is these emotional moments. He knows how to pace them out. He knows how to plan them, execute them. The dialogue is usually always really great. But I have no idea why Cardboard Dad exists in this. Like, I can't see the post-it note version of this story where Cardboard Dad is adding to it, and yet emotionally, like, he's able to just hit really neat moments. But if you plotted this out, I would write him out in a heartbeat. I'd write out Marcus's best friend, or do something substantial with him besides pink eye joke.
That's where I was saying, like, for me personally, as a point of comparison, I fought it. Second time I read this, I fought it, and I still ended up like getting allergies, if you know what I'm saying, when I read Ghostopolis at a couple points. There's too many allergies in the room. I was sniffling. And I felt like every time it happened here, it didn't land. I knew what I was supposed to. The pieces were there, and I knew what I was supposed to feel, but somehow I didn't feel it.
See, I did.
I'm saying, like, you know,
it's because you're broken inside.
No, that's not true.
Because time in academia.
It lands. It lands in Tommy Source Rex better. I think it does. I don't know.
I don't like dinosaurs. I think that they're contrived and boring. So that may be why I don't feel the same way about Tommy Source Rex. I'm also not.
While she's on screen, I like waifu material better in this book than in some of the other books. One of the things I like about her is that when she pushes back against Dad, she kind of laughably jokes about how men are men, right? So that's kind of like correct use of gender, the battle of the sexes. But her pushback is specifically against Dad's pride and refusal to accept help from anyone. So she's critiquing an aspect of manhood that's important to a man, but can become destructive to a man. I'm alone, but must care for my son, and I want to shut out anybody in the world away from me.
And here's part of the thing I want to talk about Next Door Neighbor Chick, because we haven't really addressed her yet in our breakdown of it, and we're already an hour in, and so she's a pretty important part, and that's actually where I think Mini Dad is in the story.
Okay.
Yeah, I think without Mini Dad, you don't get a chance for Next Door Neighbor Chick to show exactly the completeness of her character. Next Door Neighbor Chick has been there for a while. She and Dad have chemistry. They definitely like each other. Dad is hung up on his dead wife, and not in a healthy way, right? He's unwilling to let the past be the past, to let it move on at all. He's just like he's like it's me and my boy against the world, and I can't let myself need anyone else. But he absolutely has no way of dealing with the things in life.
Yeah,
I would definitely
and
say
the work theme is kneaded into the dough of even that story component, because she is trying to work for him and on multiple levels, and he's not respecting the value of that work. And so that's another variation on that same theme that every character is dealing with, is like what can my work be respected? Can I find good work to do? And can my work be appreciated by the recipients of it?
And so one of the things you have with Mini Dad is that Mini Dad is able to riff off of Next Door Neighbor Lady in the way that Dad would if Dad wasn't like so intentionally broken.
That's fair.
And so you get a chance for future stepmom.
Tina. Her name is Tina. Tina and Mike.
Tina, thank you. You get a chance for
Mike
Tina.
is Dad and Tina is.
There you go. Mike is Dad. You get a chance for Tina to show her qualities, that she's caring, that she wants to make a home, that she's not interested in financial. Like her main interest is not finance. Her main interest is goodness, and you get a chance to see her qualities in a way that you would not be able to if it was just Mike there.
They're misunderstanding each other, which is cool, which is interesting, because it's like Mike thinks that in order to appreciate labor, he has to never accept charity and always pay it forward.
Yes.
And Tina and that's a very kind of masculine way of approaching value and labor. And Tina is approaching it from a female perspective, which is to care and nurture. And so Tina and Mike very naturally speak at cross purposes from each other. Because they're coming at it from their respective gender places, which leads to a very natural conflict. I would say this is one of the most, it's one of the better relationship dynamics that TenNapel has depicted, at least in the works that we've seen thus far. It's one of the most complex depths. It works, and it provides definitely the connective tissue that I didn't see in Jacobus. And it's definitely there in Ghostopolis, but it's more it's like. Here, it's got more nuance to it,
right? Well, and part of the deal is that you're also seeing that and part of it has to do with the size of it, right? The thickness of this book, right? Mm-hmm. It's like almost 300 pages, and so it
flies by the way, most TenNapel works, it always flies by.
It's like a third of it is action.
Yeah. But one of the things, because of the exercise, you get a chance to see that. And it's really telling, but what Tina wants to take the place of Mike's wife, but not take the place of Mike's wife. She wants the place of Mike's wife. She's not trying to replace the wife, and that's part of the thing that Mike has to get his head around all of that. And so that's a really complex deal, and I think that having the mini Mike actually allows the reader to see oh, like this is a good-hearted woman who sees a guy in trouble and wants to be there for him because she sees his qualities, and she wants him to see her qualities for what they are.
Oh yeah, and Mini Mike is actually he helps her with baking, right? And yeah, so okay, that's a good point. Yeah, because she's still keeping with this his
100%
transference of like him doing the playing with the same themes in all these books. Like she's still an angel figure, like a guardian angel type figure, but I guess she's more a mundane than some of the other female figures.
Part of that's because of her position in the setting as just the neighbor next door. But she's very much the I don't know if you guys have read Andrew Klavan talk about the mothers of his childhood.
Yeah.
Right? But
and he'll talk about how his wife, he married this beautiful Amazon whose primary quality is that she's feminine, and as a feminine person, she's caring and she creates a home, which is beautiful for him because he.
Right, but one of the things I was specifically pointing out with it was that he said when I was growing up, every house had a kitchen window, and above every kitchen window was a mother watching the neighborhood, and like that's the very kind of protecting of like motherhood that Tina exudes. Like she's in the neighborhood, she sees a kid that needs a mom, she sees a dad that needs a wife, she wants to be part of that unit in a way that
well that's usually for Doug. I think that's usually what even more narrowly than that, I think the adult female characters are usually there to help heal the broken masculine traits of particularly the adult male characters. Usually, he's writing from a male perspective, and which obviously is fine. And so the female characters are usually more outsider figures who are coming in, sometimes kind of floating in, sometimes just walking, from the house next door. So it's a little more mundane, like here, and coming in to kind of sweep up and like to tidy up a messy masculine life, which is it's just kind of neat. I don't know, he's done it every time so far, going back to Bigfoot Bill. Like he's always done it, but it's neat to see him take out another whack at it. I don't know, does he ever not do this? But this is a better example of it.
In Bad Island, the parents are a unit to begin with, so there's not a foundation or a forming of any kind of family. They're there to begin with. So it's more of a Swiss Family Robinson kind of angle with it.
That's neat.
Yeah. So
and that's where I was wondering, because I don't think Doug, from what I know, I don't think Doug has this dynamic that he often portrays in his fiction as a part of his life. Like I don't think he has like a single parent. Is he from a single parent household or right? No. So like I felt like he was more channeling like the stories he may have grown up with.
Well, and I think part of it is this is a mechanism to demonstrate because like one of the dynamics I think he plays with is the idea that women civilize men and men build civilization for women, right? And
interesting,
and that's in real life that's a decades long process, right? In a fiction, how do you do that in 300 pages, right? So I think that like having the utility of having a single parent household that then becomes healed through these various different facets. And one of those is the feminine energy of Tina, or the promised feminine energy of Tina, is a situation that allows you, it's a story conceit that allows you to tell a decades long story in 300 pages.
Yeah. And it's just like a function of what he wants to do with the protagonists, like unless he's going to write female main characters, he wants the male characters are going to undergo the most change because he's writing them as the leads, and so the female characters are going to be there as a function of helping. They're primarily going to be helping the leads achieve their arc, and the secondary arc, their own arcs are secondary. So that's there's some practical aspects to that too, but it's just kind of interesting. This is so different from Gene the yin yang again. Like you've got so many different stories. I don't think thematically we're seeing the kind of archetypes play out for Gene over the like 6 books or so we read, but his themes are, he's only got one theme, but he's got all these different kinds of disjointed stories where he's struggling to even figure out how he can tell that. Like Doug knows exactly what story he wants to tell every time, it seems, you know, and they're similar in some ways and they echo each other. So
Right.
you even get this transference. Like sometimes I'm thinking about the dad character in this, and I think I'm getting bleed over. I think I'm liking Cardboard more because I'm confusing him with all the other dad characters because they're so similar. Do you know what I mean? Or the like I'm
No,
getting they
there's
bleed into each
definitely-
other.
Yeah, there's archetype of dad. Like I said, I think he's the most. I think this guy here is the most dad, because in Jacobus the whole point is Chief learning how to be a dad, essentially,
Right.
how to become one.
That's true.
In this and in like in Ghostopolis, it was like boy who kind of had, again, it was the idea of like the grandfather learning how to be a father again, or Bone King pinch hitting for a moment to give some dad.
And Frank Gallows is kind of a surrogate dad.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah. But like in this story, we get like, this is like dad prime. Like he's got dad jokes, he's got dad pride, he's got dad issues, but he's also got all the good parts that dad has. So this is like archetypal.
There's a line
dad.
where little dad says, "I'm going to go get a 6-pack," and dad says, "That isn't how I talk." Right?
Yeah.
See, Twitless, like, aren't these things like, I would think you'd like this because it's a very clean, like thematic structure. Like like all the pieces are very like it's obvious how they connect. There's not a lot of like strange, you know, like left hooks, I guess, to fit with the boxing.
There actually
analogy.
are a few, I think.
Okay. Well,
and-
now it's probably a good time to get into it, I think.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and wrap. We can wrap up the.
Could I wrap up
story
Tina
really
with? Could I wrap up the Tina thing with? Well,
go for it.
Maybe you have a wrap up that. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to call out about Tina is there's a really neat comics convention that's used to introduce her, which is that when she shows up, she says, "Hi, Mike," and then Doug draws little ornate flowers around her words to indicate she has honey in her voice. So, like, how do you communicate a very sweet feminine voice in comics? Doug did it, and then that moment tells you what you need to know about Tina with the first words out of her mouth. So I just thought, nice. I love that little thing.
I don't think I noticed that.
Yeah, in Dad's complete like Greystone, like ignorance and I guess, or refusal to acknowledge that was a funny little moment too. So
yeah, the amount of cluelessness that Mike has of his own self and of the world around him is actually pretty funny. Although I kind of feel that maybe hits a little close to home.
Mm-hmm, it's supposed to.
So to wrap up the story bit, so basically Marcus builds the monster maker, and then he tells his monsters to start making more monsters, and eventually they start building a whole cardboard world in the basement of Marcus's house. And Marcus's parents, while this is going on, and they're not fully aware of it because they're kind of absentee parents who love their kid but don't know what to make of him because they don't understand the phase he's going through, and they demand respect but never follow up on it, and the whole thing. They go off to see Grandpa and leave Marcus the house to himself. And while this is going on, Marcus's cardboard robots, dismantle the house and rebuild it as a cardboard mansion full of death traps and living crabs and all kinds of stuff. And hey,
Cardboard World was cool.
Cardboard World was awesome, although it has a cardboard sky. The whole works. It was a little bit. I would say I have a really wide suspension of disbelief for these kind of fantastic stories. How big Cardboard World was supposed to have gotten over a weekend is a little ridiculous.
Is that stretched it for you?
No, just a little bit. It was like one of those things where it's like, I don't really buy that, but I'm going to keep reading because I love it.
I'm a little more of a stickler. I had more things that bothered me a little, but I had to purposely tell myself just let it go.
Yeah, because it's fantasy. Also, side note, there's this awesome. If you look at this panel here on the bottom, there is this awesome cardboard dirigible in the sky. So
nice. Just a quick shout out to if everyone playing your Doug to Naple bingo at home. This is the spot where he introduces an Elseworlds scenario where you basically go to a different dimension at this point.
This is the step for the the steps for the wardrobe, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's obligatory. So
and it enters it by using a magic spell and a bazooka made of cardboard.
Yeah, I was almost like I'll be quick about this, but I was kind of grateful the first half. I didn't dislike it that he brings us back up again, but I was kind of impressed with how many pages he gives us, like 100-something pages, where it's just a family and some neighbors having dialogue, and I was impressed that that he found that interesting enough to actually come up with this story and draw that. I was like, wow, this is the most grounded story we've read, so far.
Almost,
but
except for the cardboard people, it almost gives off a slice of life vibe.
Much more so. And I just didn't expect him to ever want to draw something like that or write it. So it was kind of funny to see him want to give us that, but he seemed to like what he was drawing. Like, it was, it's always been dynamic, but then you get to what you probably expect, what I expect more from Doug, which is this the fantasy, the wardrobe moment. So anyway, moving on.
So I just saw Mrs. H gave us another spider pickle.
I got it in chat.
I got
shout out to Jack in the thanks for hanging out with us.
Hey Jack, good to see you.
Yep.
So
this is like the best. This is fantastic.
he's become a sad standee.
Oh, he's cardboard spider pickle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the
amazing.
The stand behind him.
If anything is worse than being a spider pickle, it's being a cardboard spider pickle. Also, I would like to point out that we have a revelation happening in the chat just a little bit ago. That Brian Ball is here. He is called out. Oh, come on, show that he and Twitless were talking about negromancy, and Twitless says, "I get it, black magic." And Twitless he says, "You are the first person to get it," which I did
not get that till now. Thank you. It took Twitless, the whitest guy, to explain. That's amazing. If Brian gives you the if Brian gives you an inward pass before he gives me one, I'm gonna be livid. It's
the fact that we're opposites. That principle.
Beautiful.
It's the yin yang.
So yeah. Anyhow,
all right, so where we're cardboard.
Back to cardboard. So within the world there, which is a concept I love, of cardboard, Marcus's like most evil and dark desires, the worst part of his personality, becomes the gravest monsters and his own fake cardboard Marcus, who is the king of the cardboard world. And so Marcus has to go face his own self. With the help of his new friends Cam and Dad and Bill come in to rescue, and it's great.
Yeah. Though keep in mind, there's anticipating a criticism from Twitless. There's like two Marcuses. There's a cardboard Marcus, and then there's a bigger cardboard Marcus.
Well, yeah, the giant monster with two heads.
Yeah. So anyway, there's just maybe that's some of the bloat that Twitless might.
So that's where I want to stop with the description of the plot. I will say it wraps up nicely, and I love it. But So what are your hot takes, man? What are your problems?
All right. Well, first off, this isn't a hot take, but this is my obligatory. I have to bring up Mouse. So I think that there's a case to be made for the fact that Marcus is just the Art Spiegelman is in fact what Marcus represents here. So if you look at the fact they look exactly the same,
Incredible.
And on top of
Absolutely
that, I'm gonna read this line, and Reese, you stop me when this sounds familiar. And you know you'll never add up to your father's definition of success. He's just plain made of something better than you. Nobody can be that great, so you just give up now.
Well, that's explained. That's the speech that Art Spiegelman gives when he's just telling his fiance Francois why he got into art.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the origin of that image of? What's the image of that origin of that image?
The one on the right.
Yeah.
That's just Art like drawing like himself, just like his depiction of himself.
Was that in MetaMouse? Or?
I don't know if this one's from MetaMouse. He also draws himself in the New Yorker. I was just trying to pull one because I was like, they even have like a similar hairstyle. The vest was just like it was too good not to pass up. I was like, and then with the dad thing, I was like, this is just Art Spiegelman. He's just describing Art Spiegelman.
Well, Dave Dashanovich pulls out that this is something that we've mentioned. Doug mentions he was a jerk as a youth. And I definitely think that there are reflections of his own
just only in his youth. I don't know.
No.
Anyway,
he
grew out of that
only in his youth. Definitely in his youth. It was somewhat of a. My understanding is somewhat of a reprobate jerk.
Maybe this is why Marcus has so many dimensions, and Doug seems to have a very clear image of who Marcus is. And we're always struggling to get that full picture. Maybe at its worst moments, maybe we're trying to see just how big. I don't know. He's almost he's too many dimensions, and maybe that's because maybe there's a lot of Doug that he's consciously trying to channel for Marcus. But
I definitely think just that could be an aspect of it. But I think it's also one of those things where Marcus is never, and I don't believe was ever intended to be a or even in Tommy Source Rex, the bully in there. A lot of times Doug's bullies are not bullies who are just bullies, right? They're not that one-dimensional bad guy, Flash Thompson. Even Flash Thompson wasn't that, but he gets portrayed that way in the popular press.
Early Ditko, it took a while for him to get some more of that depth. Like he was a bit Ayn Randish.
Part of it was he was a little bit of a he was sort of a dick in the early Ditko stuff, but a lot of that had to do with the interaction with Peter was so short, and Peter was a dick too. So
sure, I'm just saying that like it's just a quality of the storytelling at the time where every character is a bit one dimensional, and so
right.
And so because of that, it's I see what you're saying. There were hints that there was more to Flash, but it never mattered because he was on for like 3 panels, then we didn't see him for like the rest of the book. Yeah.
So
no, I see what you're saying. That's actually one of the things that I love about Doug TenNapel's storytelling, and I think it's one of the most Christian aspects of it. He has a very strong redemptive quality to his work. Characters who are bullies can be forgiven, but there's something that he does. At least in Tommy Source Rex, I felt like it was a little weaker here, if I'm being honest.
Oh my god! Sorry, I got to share this. So,
dang it! What's happening?
He's asking for your mailing address, is what he's asking.
Oh gosh!
He's like, you want your Edward pass or not?
I'd rather have a black friend pass. I need to tell my friends I know someone who isn't white.
That's why you deserve the pass, because you don't think you deserve it, and so that's probably why you're going to get it for me.
I want the I have a black friend pass.
Meanwhile, Mrs. H says, "I know what you're trying to do, Brian, but Red Rooster is mine. You cannot bribe him."
Okay.
Oh, it's getting cutthroat in the chat. It's getting cutthroat tonight.
Oh gosh.
Beautiful.
So yeah, my apologies to to some of the people who are watching this. We're all friends here.
Who don't
brothers.
know what's
we're all
going on.
brothers in Christ. Okay, so no, what I was gonna say is that this is something that didn't land as well for me, the bully arc, because there was something that felt forced about when Marcus turns. It didn't feel as genuine for me. And Cam being a good kid is good, and I'm glad that Cam is willing to kind of like forgive. That's fine. It was just with it was just Brian. Don't F word me. Oh gosh. And we're done.
No, I see what you're saying, but I don't necessarily agree, because one of the things that you have there is that while there, and this is one of the things is in the scene, and we didn't show it earlier, but with the scene where Marcus goes on talking about the jealousy he has toward Cam, one of the reasons for his jealousy is that he wants to believe he believes more in life because he has all these pets, and he believes he's more creative, right? He is claiming a moral ground in his creativity, and yet when his creativity tries to kill him, comes after him, the first thing he does is he goes to the person whose creativity didn't kill him. So I think that there is already a begrudging respect he has for Cam, that he doesn't want to admit because of the class difference and because of his own ego and pride, and so I think that's a factor in the interplay, that there is and I think that's even when, and I think that's that there is a relationship that is intimated between Marcus and Cam earlier when Marcus first steals the machine, because he's being deceptive, but he's specifically going to Cam, and Cam, has some reason to trust him, right? And maybe not completely, but
honestly,
I
I either wanted to see one of two things. I either wanted to see Cam do pure forgiveness, and it doesn't matter what you've done. I'm just forgiving you out of Christ. Or I wanted to see more repentance out of Marcus, because I feel like it kind of like, you remember with Jean Leon Lang, the problem I had where it didn't feel like the girl understood what she was getting into with Christianity. I feel like here, I feel similarly, which is the idea that like, I don't feel like Marcus has shown the capacity to have the depth to really turn his life around. And so when he turns his life around, it feels like a shallow turnaround. Now, maybe that's all he's capable of, and so that's fine in a way, but there was just something that didn't land on an emotional level because of that.
Right. Well, I think one of the situations that's in here, and maybe you feel like it's doing too much lifting in the situation, in the circumstance.
Like, is it the looks they're giving each other?
No. There's mortal peril that's on the table.
Oh yeah, okay.
All right. So what we have is that like Marcus's life is in danger, and he goes to Cam and says, "I really screwed up. My life is in danger," and Cam doesn't throw him off. Right? Cam says, "Okay."
And we also see Marcus really likes Cam. When Cam briefly leaves him, Marcus is hurt by that. And I think there could be an element to it where, as Marcus is jealous of Cam, one of the reasons he's jealous of Cam is there's something about Cam he likes so it's the classic thing of like when you like a kid, but you're jealous of them, instead of being nice to them and becoming more like them, you act out against them because they make you feel bad about yourself. So
yeah, go check out page 196.
Yeah. What Marm's saying, that's like, that I think that's what he's trying to achieve, right? And I think it's pretty complex, maybe too complex for this story, but yeah.
And I think Marcus has a throwaway line where he says to Carboard, Marcus, "Look, you're just the projection of my dark thoughts. I was really just messing around." So Marcus's sin is, well, he's very cruel to Cam and Boxer Bill, and then he plays around. He's jealous and he steals Cardboard, so that's a pretty bad sin. But he doesn't. I don't think Marcus knows what he's unleashing. He thinks he's being creative and making servants for himself, but then he finds out what that means when basically his God complex falls apart. Oh yeah, and this is the page I'm thinking about. Yeah, so this sets up later when Cam does come back for him. Marcus is actually, he likes Cam so much that he is afraid of being abandoned by Cam, because Marcus likes Cam, and Cam is just barely getting to know Marcus at this point. It's what is
and
it?
because
It's
also
like a
Cam
space tsundere. That's what he is.
Yeah, and Cam is going through a situation where he's been Marcus is taking advantage of him repeatedly, and like Cam wants to be everyone's friend because he's that kind of a guy, right? And maybe he's a little bit of a Mary Poppins in the story, right? Perfectly perfect in every way, right? But the
So I see what Marm is saying. I think the issue I have, because like the pieces are there, I see them, but there's something that's not landing, and I'm wondering if there's like if he's got. I feel like with Marcus, there's too many pieces. Maybe that's the issue I've got, because his personality and his character arc seem to be going in so many different directions, like at the same time, and it's like I feel like if we'd chosen maybe a couple of them, like picked a lane. But he seems to be going in so many different directions that when he finally becomes a good guy, as it were, in terms of the overall narrative, I was just kind of like, huh? It didn't. I didn't have the same resonance that I had like with Tommysaurus Rex or some of the other Tenaple pieces that we've read. Even like Hunter Krog, from. Earthboy Jacobus. It's a very binary moment, but it was like the through line was very direct, and with Marcus, it's just like he says he cares about things, except that's totally like undercut by how sociopathic he is. And I think the fact that he is kind of a sociopath is partly why I have a hard time believing.
Yeah, it's like a borderline personality disorder. I feel like.
Yeah.
Like constantly worried about abandonment,
and I'm like tomorrow when you
mimicking,
and I'm like tomorrow if Cam pisses you off, right? Are you not going to turn around and like do something just as abusive tomorrow? Like have you actually? And the story I think actually does do a good job of selling him making that turnaround. It's just like I didn't feel it when he made it. The epilogue is solid. Like when he actually is like just like working and put in a good day's labor.
Well,
like
I think that's part of the
but
situation too. Is like in the conversation with not the monster Carboard Marcus, but the regular Carboard Marcus,
the king.
Right, the King Marcus. He actually talks through a lot of those sort of issues of self-doubt and the idea that you're dealing with your sense of you're projecting your sense of rejection from your father on the rest of the world and your relationships with them, and you can't do that, right? And on the one hand, and here's part of the thing is the reason that Marcus comes to that position of being able to say these things to Cardboard Marcus is that he has to save his life. So his life literally depends on his self-awareness in this point, right? And that's one of those he has to acknowledge his own sinfulness. He has to confess it in order to save his life.
Does that fully land? Because I think it wasn't Cam notices that more than Marcus does, doesn't he? Because doesn't Marcus just say, stop having insights about me, Marcus. I'm trying to get through to Cardboard Marcus. Like it was kind of like a little joke moment where
let's take a look at it. That's on page.
I also feel like he uses he's used his confessions in the past to like get stuff. Oh, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. I'm totally like wrong. Oh, will you please give me my friend and like get me access to the things I want? And in this case, what he wants, he wants something. Earlier in the story, he wants the magic cardboard. Mm-hmm. Later on in the story, he wants friendship. But do you see how like I feel like he still hasn't quite learned that.
Okay, check 234 out.
I don't know. It's just something about it.
No, he does.
The
like,
metaphorical journey into the belly of the beast and being rescued from the belly of the whale didn't do it for you.
No, I also felt like by the end, it's almost a it's like a token expectation now of Christian comics, is that you kind of have to melt the plot structure just a little bit by the end to get that confessional, that conversion moment.
Which page was it? What page was it, Reese, again?
So page 234.
Yeah. 234, okay, I'll put it.
Like the stuff you build up, sometimes you don't get 100% of the way there to earn those moments, but you still have to do it anyway because it's a Christian comic. So things dissolve a little bit in order to reach that conclusion.
So to answer Marm, I think Marm is right. The pieces, as I said before, the pieces are there. For some reason, I am not emotionally resonating with them. And I feel like it's because of how these characters have been established before. There's something that I'm missing.
All right,
But-
so
but- but-
I'm gonna defend. I'm just gonna defend Marcus because actually Marcus is my favorite part of the entire.
Before we get into that, for Mrs. H says, "How old is Marcus?" I believe Marcus the camera is supposed to be 10.
All right, so it seems like the question boils down to: are the pieces are there? Do the pieces coherently gel together, or is it being forced? So Doug has the mythical, hero's journey elements of like getting swallowed by the beast and getting trapped in a hellish world of your own making. So Twitless, you brought up Tommysaurus Rex as a alternate example of bully redemption arc, and I feel like there's a pretty distinct plot difference between how Tommysaurus Rex handles the bully and how Carboard handles the bully, where maybe they become a bit apples and oranges. So Tommysaurus's Rex bully needs a daddy. And so he has a very simple problem. He's mean. He does a mean thing. He spoilers. He hurts the Tommysaurus, and that's what the boy in Tommysaurus Rex has to forgive the bully for. So it's a very pure Christian forgiveness, and I guess the bully does something nice to show he's truly sorry. Marcus is kind of like this neurotic 3-dimensional bully, which is what's given us all of like these bits and pieces to work with, where he is manipulative, he does some evil things, but I feel like a part of that throughout is he actually reminds me a lot of Sid from Toy Story, where Sid's the bad guy of Toy Story, but Sid's probably not the worst kid in the world. He has a dark imagination, he tortures his toys, but he doesn't know his toys are alive. Right. So the dark aspect of Marcus is like manipulation, making excuses for his behavior, contrasted with the desire to be creative and maybe feeling a lack or he's Cain, right? He's unable to live up to the good boy. So his failing is that in striving to become a better thing, he becomes a worse thing. He hurts his enemy rather than makes himself stronger, right? And I feel like the question is, the bits and pieces are there. Do they hold together? I feel like the bits and pieces of Marcus having a redeemable or noble quality to him were present early. Like even in things like he doesn't want his rat to get hurt, but he's kind of stupid in putting his rat in a dangerous situation in the first place. Mm-hmm. He's a stupid kid. The culmination of his story is saying to his dad, "I'm bad. I'm a bad kid. Please help me." Right. So it's asks the question of, is when he and these two reconcile, is that Marcus is manipulator, or is that Marcus with a heart change? We see the heart change after. So if the magical part is pulling him out of the gigantic pile of rotting cardboard, the human part is admitting to your dad that I'm bad and I need help, like a Christian confession.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So one of the things about this page you're talking about, like, is Marcus just doing this to get a friend? Well, Marcus has his confession and then he walks off to be alone, right? He's not looking for anything from anyone at this point. I don't think he's just realizing the depth of the depth of it, and I think that's further emphasized if on 2 pages over or 3 pages over, starting on page 237, other Marcus, Cardboard Marcus, comes and sits down and says, "What if we don't want to be us? Can we be anything else?" And he has this speech. "I'm made of cardboard, but so is this wall that we're sitting on. Yet I can sit and talk and I can do, and this wall can't do anything. So there must be something besides just cardboard at work in me. Whatever that thing is that is not just cardboard is part of what makes me me. And if there is a me that exists beyond the materials I'm made of, are we really just a slave to these materials?" And that's the nature of the conflict. Is redemption possible when we are just dirt? Right? And that's the thing is, I that gets me. So like that's a heavy moment to really weigh that.
It's somehow
Because
no,
you're broken
that
inside.
no, that is no. You know, you pull this again. I'm going to talk about how broken you are. We're going to get into a broke
well, yeah,
broke Olympics.
yes.
No,
I am the guy that told that.
Yeah, exactly. Do we want to get into the way how you were what you were saying about the Holocaust victims?
Spiegelman, not the Holocaust victims.
Oh my goodness.
Spiegelman is a bitch. That's
Wait, quickly, Marm, did you get okay? Because I know you have ears for this. I'm sure everyone does, but Marm in particular, did you get a like a Calvinism kind of tension critique here? Do you think, because like we know, like Doug, for years, like ever since we've been watching him on live streams, like he'll discuss like I used to read John Calvin, and
Hey, he's not a
I
Calvinist
feel like
anymore.
the cardboard. Yeah, well, there's like a metaphor here of like, do we have agency if we're created beings, kind of situations. Did you feel that as a layer here in that kind of dialogue?
It's weird. I felt it more in Newt's than in this.
Okay.
Because in Newt's he has his deity come down and fight with the bad guys, and my initial thought is, well, then it's not God anymore. It's some kind of weird. Yeah. Maybe it's some kind of weird angel, but it can't work as God if you do that. Lewis gets away with it by having the only time Aslan fights, he totally destroys and pwns the White Witch. So it's like he could have done that at any time, and he just waited for the right moment. And then the second he fought the witch, he was like gone in a second. So I've gotten that feeling of a like a less sovereign view of God in some of his other books. I felt like this when Matt was referencing the materialism page, right? Like, are we just cardboard, or are we more of that? It feels like it's more focused on materialism. It's materialism itself versus the soul.
Okay.
I didn't get the Calvinist angle in this one until you brought it up, basically.
No, I might be overreading it, because I don't. I guess Marcus doesn't represent that elsewhere. It's more of that. He's the product, and he's the avatar of the 90s secular humanist Californian kid. So yeah, it makes more sense if he's just if he's what you're saying. So yeah, I might be over reading it. Anyway, that was the interesting moment. That's good dialogue.
Yeah. I absolutely love them. And it actually, and the fun thing is it bookends something from the first part or the middle of the second act, I think, if I'm counting it right, where Dad and where Mike and Cam have a similar discussion about their dead mom, about the dead mom, and what does it mean to be alive, and the soul, does it persist on beyond that, and all that kind of stuff. And it's not as heavy in the beginning, in the first part, but it echoes that from a different narrator. So
that's true. That reinforces that that's what that dialogue moment was about, because the story is so, the organizing principles are so consistent. Like he's gonna ring that bell, as Doug likes to say, several times in different moments. So, and he does it with that.
In some ways, you got to realize that this is a Chekhov's gun moment. Right? You bring up, materialism versus transcendent existence, and you got to pull that trigger. So,
well, and if you if you do it well, like, you're gonna pull the trigger several times. You're gonna shoot like 3 or 4 different characters with that.
Well, yeah, and I think honestly that's important from a structural perspective. If you're talking about these kind of philosophical ideas, I mean, it's the same thing in Romeo and Juliet, or in Henry V, right, where Shakespeare did that, where you're talking about what does it mean to have family? What does it mean to have duty to family? And in Romeo and Juliet, those are big themes, and in Henry VIII, what does it mean? I mean, Henry V, what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a king? Those things, they're big questions, but if you just lay them all out at once through one speaker, suddenly you're reading a philosophy text, or a text on governance, right? You're you're supposed to be watching a play, you're supposed to be reading a comic. You got to break it up a little bit. You got to make it part of the story and all that. So
yeah, it's not a theme until multiple characters are struggling with that from different angles, and they're each only providing a piece of that organizing structure. Yeah. Would you say at least Twitless that it's consistently organized? Like you could, I guess you did say that, didn't you? Because you can see all the puzzle pieces.
Yeah, I can see all the puzzle pieces. Like I said, there was just, I don't know, maybe I'm not, like I said, Doug's stories have landed before with me, even when I didn't want them to. Like I said, I was like, no, don't you dare. And I read Ghostopolis for the second time. And like I said, I got allergies. And so, like I said, there was just something about it. It was difficult for me to try to even articulate it. And I still feel like Marcus's, and at the end, again, it's all there. He says, "Dad, I'm a bad person." And I think towards like the very end, I think I believed it better. But up until that point, I felt like Marcus's decisions were all, even his repentance, as it were all motivated by his sense of self and not necessarily about a sense of right and wrong external to himself. You know,
this is a Dean Llewellyn Yang moment for you, because this doesn't. You're like, I don't see a full confession of sin, so I don't. Yeah,
it's kind of
that's okay. That's okay to feel that way. I'm just.
I think but like it's there in Mouth, but there's something about him as a person that's just so like, it's like that person.
So Twitless, show me where the show me on the doll where the story touched you.
No, I was very touched. The story was very touching.
No, no, I in fairness, though, I think that let me throw this out there as an idea. So sin, right, and our sinful natures, not just even like sin as an action, but sin as an aspect of our nature, is something that I don't know that we understand in the external until we really understand on the internal, right? As far as it being like something that's part of us, right? Because I mean, you can have external actions. Oh, I was mean to this person. I harmed this person. I was a jerk to this person, and still not own that as part of your character, right? You can say, "Oh, I made a mistake and I said the wrong thing," rather than, sorry, I'm trying to say something, and Brian.
Chat is just like it's difficult today. They're being
highlight the chat for those of us who are on our phones. I want to know what's going on.
So,
Brian's being great. No, thank you.
Can we just appreciate Twitless is officially Brian's token white boy? He checks all the boxes. It's great. We're glad you have one, Brian.
I'll get you to all the country clubs.
Don't highlight me, he says.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. If I had a criticism of Marcus, I feel like he's just so big, and Doug got more interested. Well, I don't know. He always plans out his stories before he starts, but it almost feels like he got more interested in Marcus as it went along, so that by the end, it's obviously a Marcus story by the end, but it's not clear at the beginning, and it's just kind of funny.
I wouldn't say that it's a Marcus story at the end. I think it's still. I think Mike has so much. We haven't really touched much on Mike's journey.
Marcus's story. I'm with Matt though. Marcus's story. The fact that there ends up being 3 Marcuses, like in the story at a given time, and like and all 3 of them end up going on some pretty long dialogue moments.
That's fair, Brian. Y'all go way back. Yeah, he kind of devours. He just kind of devours the page space by the end.
Right,
So
I have a very important question I have to ask the panel. When did you first realize that this story was not only Gremlins 1, but Gremlins 2?
Oh, I didn't at all.
The second that
that's
the rules
good.
came up.
That's good.
Okay,
Mhm.
because this is not just Gremlins 1; it is also Gremlins 2. Because the
I don't
end of
think I've
Gremlins,
seen Gremlins 2.
the end of Cardboard is exactly the end of Gremlins 2.
I haven't seen
Yeah.
Gremlins 2, so I can't comment.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Well, that's funny. Maybe that's the organizing principle.
It is uncanny how much this is Gremlins 1 and 2. I was just like, oh, this is Gremlins 1. You know, like when the guy with the like weird eye is giving the rules. Okay, that's Gremlins 1. Cool. And then the end happens, and I'm like, oh, this is the second Gremlins. This is exactly
I've never seen Gremlins 2.
They're all sorry.
I've never seen Gremlins 2. I've only seen Gremlins 1, but I did pick that up right away. Yeah.
So the end of Gremlins, the end of Gremlins 2 is it's like Gremlins 1.
No, I think I have seen it because that's the one that happens in the building, right?
The building, and they all melt at the end.
Right.
They all melt into a puddle of goo.
Because they turn on the sprinklers.
And how does this one end?
Well, yeah, but the difference is that that you get to see Bill as a great hero making the suicide play.
I mean, sure. I'm just saying that like there's so many cues that are taken from it. I'm not. It's not 1-to-1, but it's uncanny how much overlap.
Well, I mean, that's that that concept was not original. I mean, I don't want to say like the monkey's paw aspect of things is not unique to Gremlins 2.
No, yeah, Twiddler's just saying, Gremlins is a very Tanaple-esque story.
I'm sure if Doug was here, he would point out that that's a possibility. So
yeah, I was gonna say there's no way it isn't. I guess considering that it's like both Gremlins movies.
Yeah.
In a lot of cues taken there, and also the fact that there's several, and this is the part that actually I'm partially okay with it, but I'm also hate it, which is the fact that there was a part of me that wanted the Cardboard universe to live at the end. The Cardboard King kind of becomes good. And there's a lot of good, like the Cardboard monster is shown to be the Marcus monster with the rat on his shoulder. He's kind of shown to be kind of like without redemption. He's like the true monster. But I feel like that if the Cardboard King could change, then the other creatures, even some of the ones who are a little bit more negative, could also change. I feel like the story kind of hints at that. And so there's this idea. It's a little bit, like I said, it's even sold better than in Gremlins 2, because Gremlins 2, there's very little redemptiveness to any of the actual Gremlins. Like the brainy one is a little bit, he's not as, I think he's the main one where you're like, oh, I don't want to see him die. He's actually sentient and like psychologically complex. And but they all freaking melt. The entire world.
So here's my theory on that. If I don't know, the theory's too strong. Sure. So the only one that lives past it's Bill, right? The only one that is not just an extension of the creator, of the imagination of the creator, is Bill. The Cardboard King Marcus is Marcus, right? It's that part of Marcus that reconciles.
Doesn't he say that there's something about him that isn't Marcus though? I thought there was part of his his whole spiel about I am part of me is me, but part of me is not you.
It's the part of me that's cardboard.
Yeah, no, I think you're onto something, Reese. That kind of does make sense. There's two characters that live on in a way, I guess. Yeah. So I guess Marcus is different. But
and also all of the creatures like the rat and the hermit crabs who have become cardboardized, I'm pretty sure they are dead too.
Yes, yeah, the machine definitely killed them, and I think that's a given. In the same way that like the little saw blades and nails that they put into Death Boxer become the jagged arm blades Death Boxer has. So
it was a big tragic moment, that end, for sure. Probably more. I don't think the Narnia the whole Narnia universe gets destroyed in other stories, right? I think it's always just the villain character or something.
Yeah, only in the last battle, and that's like basically the
setup for the new creation.
Yeah.
I mean in Doug's books where he takes that Elseworlds scenario, he always like fixes the Elseworld,
so
or harmonizes it, or
it may be
or alludes to it.
Right. It may be a cheaper moment, but in Tommysaurus Rex, I don't want to spoil. Is it okay if I spoil Tommysaurus Rex?
No.
Should I not?
Okay.
No,
we'll get there.
We need to do that.
You're right. Okay, but I'll just say that
I know what he's talking about. I know what Tits is talking about, though, and he totally has an amazing point if he could spoil it.
Yeah. Okay. Which is the fact that the moment at the end of Tommysaurus Rex, even if it's, I think, a little bit of a cheaper moment, it satisfies what I want as a reader, but probably shouldn't have gotten. Whereas in Cardboard, Doug commits to the bit more, which doesn't give me what I want, but is probably the more solid artistic decision. And I get it, because the story in a meta narrative way that's kind of being told here is the idea that we often see, which is that it's like the Mary Poppins effect, which is magic comes in to solve the problems, but then magic must be removed once those problems have been resolved, because they have been resolved and the magic is no longer necessary and would in fact probably cause more problems. So the
well
magic,
said.
the magic becomes, thanks. The magic becomes, like I said, this kind of a metaphor almost for solving your issues. And then must be removed from the story at the end. And it would be like having your cake and eating it too. So like Doug is clearly kind of committing to that tradition, which I think is very fair. But there's that part of me that wanted, obviously, like we all do, we want the magic to stay. But Doug, of course, does in a way.
I think the magic does stay, because I think that the magic is family.
Da-da-da. Roll credits for a Full House.
You think I'm joking? This is like, okay, because there's several parts of the story that get me, right. One is like that whole discussion about that discussion about the material, when we turn the page and we see them working on the house at the end of it, and like being a former builder, like that gets me going. Like I feel it, right?
Well, the fact that Bill gets kind of reincarnated is also that often in these types of stories you get the little spark of magic that's not quite magic, but is like, oh hey, the magic is still alive because Bill's still somehow here.
And then this right here, this gets me every time, right? Like that's
a good moment.
Spoiler.
That's a good moment.
That gets me. I'm just like, oh my god!
I think Mike's arc
so much.
I think Mike's arc is the best one in the story. If I'm being, I think he's. I think his arc is the best. I think it's the one I probably resonate.
I can go with that.
Here's part of the thing I want to get to is like Mike's arc is super important, and we didn't really talk about that a lot because I think you really have to experience it more than that sometimes. So you should all go read Cardboard. But like Cam's arc and the things that he's struggling with are the things Mike's struggling with. And so we don't want to, I would think if we went too much into Cam's story, you're actually moving the moving parts, because it's the things that Cam's struggling with are the things that Mike's struggling with. And so the things that Cam isn't struggling with are things that aren't connected to that. So in that way, you kind of have him being, I don't know, maybe is he a Mary Sue in the story? He's just so good. I don't know.
No, because he's got those masculine. He's got the broken side of those masculine traits, like we talked about earlier. Where
I'm talking about Cam.
Pride.
Cam. Yeah. As the boy, he's an active, he's an agent of change in the people's lives around him. He's the reason his dad needs to change, and the goodness of his heart is what actually allows Marcus to see through the corruption of his own heart.
He's lacking too many pieces to be a Mary Sue. Mary Sue's have to be the center of the universe. Actually, Marcus is an abortive Mary Sue who tries to make the universe about himself.
Ooh, wow. That's a good take. I like that. I like that a lot. Marmaduke, where do you fall down on that?
On Marcus's Mary Sue or Cam as Mary Sue?
An abortive Mary Sue. Yeah.
Kinda. I think because I'm like persnickety, and it's like it's got to be a fan fiction, and she has to have like a Southern accent, and she has to be perfect.
Why Southern?
Yeah, right. Like I'm what I have like a fastidious hyper specific.
Is it, do you think Rogue from the X-Men is a Mary Sue? Is that where we're going with this?
I don't know.
That's
No,
to call
no,
everyone
because
shitter.
the Southern accent isn't enough. So
I can't
Ray
touch
in the
anyone or I'll
Ray in
kill
the
them.
first Ray in the Force Unleashed is a Mary Sue. She's not a Mary Sue after that. Even though the movie sucked, she's one of the things that sucked about the Force. What is the second one?
The Last
Force
Jedi?
Awakens. The Last Jedi.
The last
Yeah.
time I go and see one of these movies.
Right. So Ray being a Mary Sue was not what sucked about the second in the abortion Star Wars movies, right? So anyway, Marcus is Mary Sue. The problem is by being an abortive Mary Sue, that means it defeats. It's not Doug writing a Mary Sue. It would be correct to say that he has the Mary Sue personality flaws, but portrayed as flaws in context of the universe.
Definitely.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
So, on the subject of the death of the cardboard world, Carl Toons has the best observation. Sometimes an apocalypse is just necessary, and I love that.
I love that so much that I'm never going to let you into political office ever.
Sweet meteor of death.
And it was a nuclear apocalypse, if I remember right.
It was nuclear rain.
Big Fist Bill says, "I'm making a cardboard nuke," because that was like the.
And then they changed it up to be a storm cloud nuke or whatever. So yeah.
All right. Okay,
that was funny. Just a small note, like that. I think this is the first time I've ever seen him, Doug, do the Chekhov gun thing, where I could just, I don't know. I saw the sticky notes on the floor, and I was like, it's a little too obvious. Like the cardboard nuke was like, okay. Like every other time, like he
that
he
thing's
did
gonna
it.
get used.
Yeah, like Earth, like Jacobus. I had no idea the bully, the fat ugly bully girl was gonna become the wife at the end. Like there's all these moments that he can hide, he can submerge those things. That one was like, it was funny. It's you play it as a laugh and then you can get away with it, I guess. It was just kind of like, okay, that's the big like he's gonna sacrifice himself and he's gonna save the world by blowing it up, and he just told me that like 2/3 of the way through the story. So
that wasn't 2/3. That was the beginning of the third act.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
It's just that
it was just a little
action.
too obvious.
There's just so much action that happens. You get
yeah.
Yeah, I can I easily forgive like that whole thing because it was sort of one of those things where it was
I'm really pushing it just to make sure that we're having something constructive to say, but overall I liked it.
Taylor says, when I was a kid, this is funny. When I was a kid, I never finished watching Jurassic Park, and my grandfather told me they blew the entire island up. I know Taylor's grandfather. I have had altercations with him. I can see him saying that, and that's really funny.
That's amazing.
If you've ever met this guy.
Amazing.
Wow. That's awesome. Okay, so final thoughts.
I really I'm a stickler for, like, Doug can win me over when you guys know I think he's a good writer, he's a great writer, and he's equally a great artist, but I like him when he focuses more and there's a little less like, I like it when the silly stuff is still clearly serving like a really coherent, well-structured overall, like he's being the architect rather than just the silly gardener or something. And this story was so well architectured that I found that pleasing. Even though there were a few moments like, the Marcus question mark, like, I don't know, maybe this is another exercising demon moment for Doug, and he might have I don't know, maybe gave him too much clout within the story, and it did get a little confusing as to how I was supposed to relate to that one particular character for some reason, even though everyone else I knew how to relate to them and how to react to their changes over the course of the story. Marcus was a little too multi-dimensional, I guess, but overall it was a really good. I had a great time. It was better already than some of the other stuff I've read. It's better than Bigfoot Bill, better than Ghostopolis. Jacobus is still an enigma. It's kind of like this weird, I don't know. It's hard to compare things to Jacobus because of how different it still seems to be from his other works. So, but I can easily compare it to the other stuff. It seems to be doing a better job overall. So,
I didn't have my mind changed on it by the arguments against. It was kind of interesting. What's interesting, okay, it seems like Twitless is saying the pieces are there, but the emotion doesn't hit. Matt is saying it's well constructed architecturally, but we get lost in Marcus, right? And I guess maybe the problem is Marcus was my favorite part. So the part of it that you guys aren't resonating with was precisely the part that I resonated with. And I guess my defense is I like the expose of the weird, like Marcus is the weird kid you worry about. Like he's the one who's going to do like some Columbine crap if something doesn't intervene in his life, right? And so I kind of like seeing that in a kid's book handled where it actually nails the problem is this materialistic worldview where the soul means nothing and everything in the world is just an extension of my will. The reconciliation, so Marcus's redemption seems to focus specifically on his philosophical problem, which is that he doesn't think his life matters. Therefore, nothing that isn't Marcus matters. He, in learning that his soul has value, he learns how to value something other than purely himself in the world. So that part works well for me. Therefore, the whole book seems to work for me because it actually is sort of reinforcing Marcus's story. And then like the dad's problem is he's too self-centered and he can't look past his grief. Cam doesn't really have a major moral flaw. He has like the immediate flaw of he misses his mom and he wants to save his buddy Bill. Bill wants to become a human being and wants to have a human. So maybe almost the problem is that I like Marcus, but Marcus took over the story. Yeah, like we've talked mostly about Marcus and the cardboard box guy. The earthworm Jim of the book doesn't matter a whole lot. He just reinforces that story. Yeah.
Well, and I actually kind of directed it that way because I think that was interesting. But I think that because I think the dad's story is something that is as important, if not more important, and I think it actually gets a lot more space in the story as a whole. But it's also one of those things that I don't think dissects without. I don't think it would make good radio, right? It's really personal. So in order to get to that place, you've got to really, I think, the viewers, you've got to get teeth in to Mike's story to really understand where the third act, what what Mike goes through in the third act. And Bill's story is I think just such a straightforward. Bill wants to be a better person. It's an intellectual journey, but it also has to do with physical stakes, where he has to take the power of might, the physicality of manhood, as well as the intellectual side of manhood, and to basically earn his humanity. And I think that's a really an important thing. But it's straightforward. And once you said that, I mean, you're gonna, I don't know. That's it. So I think that there's more argument to be had about Marcus. I just think you're all wrong. Well, except for Marmaduke, you're pretty right.
So that was interesting that you said he earned his humanity, because I guess that's just another nice organizing principle here, where we're playing with Pinocchio as a trope, and yet I guess Marcus is the best fleshed out Pinocchio character of the story, I guess is the idea, or that was the intent at least, was to have him be the Pinocchio character, right, by the end.
I think that's one, but like it's a Pinocchio character with it's a different type of redemption arc. Because like Bill comes in guileless, right? he's a total innocent, so that he doesn't have anything to redeem himself from. Whereas Marcus is corrupt and has to find redemption from his corruption. So, and so that's a different take on it. So,
yeah, that's great, and obviously dovetails with a like that Christian redemption arc too. Pinocchio as a credit wow. Is that all? Is that every Doug Tenable book that he's ever made? Is Pinocchio as a Christian allegory towards finding?
Well, I don't think Ghostopolis is really Pinocchio, and I don't. And
yeah, maybe
Flint
not.
isn't. Creature Tech really isn't. Creature Tech is a different kind of redemption story, actually. Yeah, definitely good.
But I like what you said. Yeah, I'm actually that's the take home for me is Marcus. Marcus is the main Pinocchio character, of which there are many, because that's a thematic structural element that he's playing with many of the characters. So, but yeah, wow, well said.
So now there is officially that's the end of the show, guys. So, but
well, I get final thoughts. I have a final thought.
Right. Yeah, Twitless, come on, bring us down. Tell us.
Why did I leave you for last? That's terrible. That was terrible this planning on my part.
Oh, that memory comes back to bite you. No, so again, I would say that I think that this is one of Doug's best ideas. It's one of his most creative ideas. I do think that when it comes to some of the emotional moments, I feel like other works that do similar things do it better. That's kind of where I landed on it.
More creative, less focused,
I guess.
Yeah.
So it's so like I said, I have no criticism of the cardboard thing. It's like I said, it's a fantastic idea, and the things it lets him do, like guys, like to our readers, it's worth it. Again, I would not say it's a bad story. It's Doug's a very reliable storyteller. You're going to get a fun ride no matter,
it is
pretty much
visual feast if you like monsters.
Yeah, you're gonna get tons of cool looking creatures and characters, and just the way the cardboard works and how you can see that creativity. That's a very hand built fun that's got magic to it. It's really good in that sense. Like I said, it's just the emotional payoffs did not land as well as they did in other Doug works, and like I said, he's doing things that he's done in other works. Like there's the bully story. Doug does that. There is the romance. Actually, the romance one I think works better here. So that I take that one back. But some of the other payoffs just did not land as well. And like I said, that's either way. Go and read Cardboard. There, I didn't drag it down too bad. There you go.
Okay, there is one other thing, and it's a side note, but I really want to talk about it. And its page starts on page 91. So if you want to bring that up.
Sorry.
The origin of the cardboard. Which,
gosh, really? You want to end on this?
Well, no, we're done. This is
we can't leave this.
Yeah, this is an epilogue to the conversation, because this is nothing. It has nothing to do with the overall plot of this.
I didn't get to say this. This isn't just Doug parroting Hollywood. This is Doug parroting himself.
Yeah, 100%. And it's a Shaggy Dog story stuck in the middle of this comic book. I love it so much.
With a little bit of evangelism in there too.
And Uncle Ruckus.
Oh gosh, yes. That is true.
Yeah.
So Mike goes back. This is the third time he's gone back to visit Gideon, and he says, "Gideon," he says, "you got to tell me what's going up with this cardboard." And he's like, "Well, it was discovered there were these UFO hunters," and he's like, "What?" So the story he tells is that there's this UFO that crashed, and that and so all these UFO hunters went in and they collected the parts of the spaceship and they put them in cardboard boxes to haul them somewhere. And when they got there, the cardboard boxes were all empty. Next slide.
All right, sorry. All
right. And what happened is that the parts of the ship absorbed into the cardboard. And so then Mike says, aha, it's alien technology. Well, kind of. The guy who built the alien craft and was exploring was an alien wizard. So it's magic after all. Well, sort of. It turns out the alien wizard was also an expert in alien particle physics.
It just keeps going.
Write Omega Girl in a way that will make Reese react this way. That's your life goal.
and so Mike is he's like, I don't even know if I can I don't understand any of this. And he's like, do you want me to tell you what he thought about his religion? And then Mike goes,
and look, he just stares at us dead in the eye after he's done.
Yeah. Just a dead eye. Yep. End of page panel.
Okay.
And so
you get
like as somebody, I'll tell you, so here's why this hits for me so much. Is as somebody who loves lore, loves that deep knowledge in stories. Like I instantly I'm reading it and I'm like, oh, he's just having us all on. I got trolled in the middle of a comic because, like, why the cardboard works the way it doesn't make any difference to the story at all. Doesn't affect the philosophical points of the story. Doesn't affect the movement of the story at all.
Also, do you have a moment to hear about our Lord and Savior?
Okay, but he's making fun of himself, right? So he's explaining the origin of the magic, and then as a throwaway line, what's interesting is when I read this the first time, I sensed Doug was a Christian and actually felt, yeah, he's actually he's taking his Christian ideas and he's weaving them into the story very naturally. So that was something I was in praise of. Now I see it in all of Doug's books. Now Doug is almost kind of like making fun of himself for having it really obvious in a lot of his books. And he's making fun. If you explain a joke, it is no joke. But as a social commentary, I like this because this is spoofing the movie that feels like it has to have a scientific explanation for magic. Like they can never just let magic be magic in a movie. It's gotta be aliens, yeah. And it if you hate this page, it can be explained as Uncle Ruckus just being a weirdo who wants to wig out Mike. So you could completely throw this away if you hate it, or you could just totally accept this as this is the real explanation of the cardboard, if that's what you want.
So I hated it, and I just read moving on.
Well, that's the beauty.
Yeah,
and once you realize, oh man, this is suddenly this is being Doug rolled, right?
Doug trolling, yeah, okay. I feel like I appreciate this better now after this talk. I first read that, I was like, what the hell? What was that?
He actually looks at the camera with one of his eyes.
I just remember the first time I heard about this joke was years ago. I remember it really stood out because this was like the main thing that was brought up at some point on some live stream about this particular comic, and it being that Doug was just sick and tired of the aliens always being atheists, so he wanted to stick it in the eye. Was this such a typical, like, I don't know, this is just a common this is the trope of Doug, is a conservative who lives in who grows up in a liberal culture is well, they did it to me, so I'm going to do it to them.
Well, and it's
you know what I mean?
And it's not even that too, like, because Doug came to his conservatism later, right? So it's one of those things where it's like, he's been on both sides of the equation, like C.S. Lewis himself. He's been on both sides of the equation. So it's like, so when you break through, you can see, oh my God, everything is programming. I feel the need to stick my thumb in some eyes.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's kind of funny to finally get to this moment, and it's like, oh, that's okay. There it is.
And I, like I said, and I love the deep lore, but I also love Shaggy Dog stories.
Yeah. Well,
it's fine.
Well, yeah. Well, quickly, it's funny because he does this also in Black Cherry, where the alien becomes a Christian, but he's got a narrative.
Right.
He does, it's not like a joke. It's not a throwaway thing.
Yeah, that's not a joke in that one. That's a whole. And we got to talk Black Cherry at some point.
That's another trope. Is the aliens are actually Christian? Like
Well,
that's another Doug T.
Yeah.
You're gonna mark that in your bingo card.
Well, it's not necessarily. It's just that they don't have. It's not. They're not guaranteed atheists because.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
Because part of the thing is like that was something in Black Cherry, to totally spoil it. The alien doesn't know about Jesus until he comes to the earth. And in Sock Baby, the aliens are actually demonic aliens. So that's just that aliens have a spiritual existence. Is it there? So
yeah, it's very Lewisian. Sorry, Twitless, you were gonna say something.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
I wanted to hear you critique this. Like
I don't
land.
I don't have much. No, oh jeez. Thanks, Matt. I was gonna say that, like, I think what makes this thing work, even if it doesn't work, is the fact that it's literally one page, and you could kind of take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And get right. It's almost like it's like an intermission. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Well,
it is. Yeah.
And the other part that I love about it, right? And I'm not to step on your toes too much, because it kind of reinforces that point. It's a little bit of the, it's really just a comic book. You should really just relax moment, right? So.
That's
the lobby moment.
Yeah. You need a healthy dose of that for Cardboard, because there was a part where I was like, wait a minute, why didn't he just hook up a water hose and blast all these guys? Never mind.
Yeah.
He needed to use a cardboard laser gun. Okay, yeah, I'm on board.
Well, it's got to be portable. It's got to be portable, man.
Yeah, because there's no way to transport water portably.
Not that much water.
Yeah, fire trucks don't exist.
Oh
I'm sorry.
Are you going to drive a fire truck down into somebody else's house? Come on.
Oh no, but you take a laser gun and a jetpack.
Yeah.
So okay. Sorry. This is the part of my brain I had to turn off so that I could enjoy Cardboard.
See, if you'd understood that these pages were telling you to relax a little, maybe you'd have figured that out ahead of time.
And we appreciate the Uncle Ruckus character is unique, at least so far in what we've read. And I actually appreciate the silly magical the liminal elvish kind of character who kind of comes in and can play both sides. He hasn't done that before, so that's actually kind of interesting. So just the fact that he exists was fun.
All right. I have an answer. I have an answer for
fire truck.
No. I have an answer for this. They literally have a cardboard magic making machine.
Yeah,
they could literally make a cardboard fire engine, which would
but the water would be cardboard, just like the blood is.
Okay.
It doesn't translate into cardboard land.
Except for the laser gun.
Well, yeah.
That's true. Yeah. Well, that's electricity. That's a whole different,
Okay. Like I said, I have to turn that part of my brain off.
That's plasma physics.
I just have to turn that part off.
Guys, everybody out there in internet land, no show next week. No show the week after. The week after that, I believe it is, we are going to be doing a dry run for the conference. And I don't know if conference is going to be available for public viewing or how that shakes out.
I believe it is. We might be able to.
But we'll have all those details so people can check all of that out. And then no show the week after that, and then that first Wednesday in June we'll be back with something or other. I'm not sure. So it won't be this show, because this show takes too much prep time. It's going to be something stupid. I mean, amazing that I don't have to think hard about. Like, how they ruined Batgirl or something easy. Something I have on the deck already.
We'll talk
in the history of my rants. So,
well, great.
That's it. So, one thing is in the description, there is no links. There will be to everything except Marma Josh's channel, because it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. I made too many Robotnik and Sanic memes, and Susan's mad at me. So I'm actually happy about it. I'm not going to be juggling between YouTube and art anymore. I get to. I think Matt C, you were talking about how there are artists who have to go be Sigma, and then they come out of their cave with 2 books. Deleting YouTube is a blessing from God. I'm going to go into my cave now.
Yeah, you're increasingly you're elevating your Sigma status.
I reject all that stupid paradigm crap. Anyway,
I like
it's
evolutionary BS, but I like it as a romantic description of man categories.
Yeah, I like it as a meme. The whole like Wolfpack thing is really lame.
Well, part of the this is totally related, but part of why I reject that entire paradigm is that you can easily carry multiple leadership roles throughout your lifetime. You're not defined by any one thing.
So that's actually part of the thing, is the fact that you can have different ones in different environments. You're not necessarily locked into one. That's part of the way the system.
Yeah. But
there's your topic, your stream topic for next week.
God, please no.
That's definitely not going to happen.
Yeah, that'd be really
that's the worst conversation. I'm sorry I said this now. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, Omega Girl. It's funny.
Later. Thanks for hanging with us.
It's